Now we're recording.
All right, now we have to stop talking about anything.
Yep. Well, all our wisdom is in the ether now, right?
Okay, testing,
Hi.
testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Good to see
Okay,
you.
that's not good. Let me
Well,
fix my audio.
yeah, it's like talking through a tin can.
You would think that Sam would have decent computers that actually work.
It's not always the computer.
Yeah, because he won't use Windows
Okay,
or Mac
I
OS.
cannot hear any of you, so I got to figure this out.
Well,
Oh,
you can always read the text chat. What's it called?
is
Captions.
it?
You can read the captions.
Let's see if the captions are working. I
No, they're
say,
working.
yeah, okay.
The captions are working. We hear Sam, but he doesn't realize he
Okay,
doesn't.
let me see if I can hear you now.
No, you can't hear us now.
Okay. Just say no in about
You're
five
not
five
talking, so you can't
minutes.
hear us.
Yeah, I'll be going to another call in 5 minutes. But uh, yeah, I have to go to Germany in 5 minutes. Virtually, you could jump to Germany.
All right, sorry. I can now hear you. I had to
Okay,
fix something
cool.
here.
Now we have nothing to say.
All right, good. We're done.
We
Have a good
we've
day. Talk
we
to you later.
solved the problem of the life universe and everything. The answer is 42.
Yeah, now how do we apply that?
7 times 6.
I saw yesterday the key to wisdom is knowing when to act. How do you act with 42?
Hmm.
Well, a friend of mine decided to build a house and give himself the house number 42. So that was
House
an act.
number 42? Oh, you mean the house number?
Yeah, the street number. He built his house and he had a choice because he had a range, between the house on the left and the house on the right. And 42 was in that range. So that's what he went with.
I want 137 or 1618 or
It was
382.
137. 137
Yes, 137.
or tau. You want tau or the
Isn't that the inverse of the universal constant?
fine structure constant,
Fine structure constant.
or approximate inverse of it.
It's interesting. The closed caption thought you said towel.
I was close because my house here is 4138. I should have it changed to 4137.
Hmm.
In fact, I'll just use it and see if the postman can figure it out.
You're on the wrong side of the street.
I know that's the problem, but it's not hard to figure out which house it is, though.
You can put your mailbox on the other side of the street and just have your mailbox out
There
there.
you go. Brilliant. I knew there's a reason I like you, Barry.
What is it? Mailbox doesn't care what side of the street it's on.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Oh.
You could, I think you could probably put a mailbox there, put a number on it, and nobody would be the wiser or complain about
Well, I have to give the guys permission, but it's not interfering with their operations at all.
oh, you don't own the other side of the street.
Well, technically, there's a little area that the government or the county owns where they can have the right of way to put the street and enough curb. Even though there's not a curb, there's just a ditch, on these streets out here. All right. Anyway, enough time wasted. Sorry, Eric. You said you had to go.
Yeah, I have a music class in Germany starting
Ah,
soon.
okay.
Yeah, but I'll just hang out another minute or two just to hear what
Yeah,
you.
sorry. I was doing something that was potentially leading to another gig. So sorry. That
Oh,
was
cool.
that was late notice.
All
Sorry
right, very
about that.
good.
Yeah. Okay. So Barry, are you pulled out of your despondency or are you still mired in it?
I know I'm not pulled out of it. I'm just moping along for multiple reasons.
All right. Eric, I think it's up to you and I to sing or do something here. Or play your instrument. Maybe you could play your instrument
Yeah,
for
I
Barry.
gotta put it together for my class. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that.
At some point, I'll get my violin ready and I'll play a little ditty.
Violins often they'll play sad music.
We could play Traurigen Musik. Yeah.
clarinet.
Or we could do the worst version of Albinioni's Adagio. What are you going to play, Eric?
I don't know yet. See, I download the music for the lesson off the net, so and they give you a YouTube demo of it. So
Thing is, you
Have you
can't
actually
play
studied
duets on-
classical?
I studied on piano for a while, some of the classical composers.
Okay.
Yeah. But I can't play them well. I could
You
just
can't play duets on Zoom though because of the time lag between.
Yeah, the latency is
Right.
tough.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
could do
there
the
are-
Les Paul version where you record it
Well,
and
there's
then
fancy ways to solve that problem, but not well.
Les Paul solved it. He could do a duet with himself.
Mhm.
So that's not really, remote.
Multi-tracking.
Yeah. But you have to record each track and overplay each track.
Yeah, I've done that.
Music -1 or whatever they used to call it.
Ah, that was what they called it 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I had some of those albums. While Eric is getting ready, I'll just recall for you that the very first Music -1 album that I got was Vivaldi's A minor violin concerto.
Without the violin.
That's the -1 part. As I recall, it wasn't very satisfying because all we could afford back then was a small little record player with built-in speakers that were like 3 or 2 inch, speakers. Didn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric,
Yes.
have you set the audio filter to low? Because I think it's filtering out a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, it
needs
is.
to be the high
Okay,
fidelity version.
I
Because we
just
could hear
turned
that
on.
you're playing something, but we couldn't hear
Okay,
a
let's
lot of
try
it
it
because
now.
it was being filtered out.
Yeah, because you have to turn original sound on.
That's right.
So
That's
let's
right.
see how it sounds now.
Yes.
Okay, that's better.
Almost sounds like Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah, it's probably derived from the similar scale.
Yeah.
All right, well, nice seeing you guys. I
Hey,
gotta
thanks
get
for
going,
joining.
but-
Thanks for playing, Eric.
Sure. Okay, have a good
All right.
one.
All
Bye.
right. All right, Barry. I think between yesterday and today, I did post something that I thought might be worth discussing if you feel up to it. But let me see if I can find it. Unless you got something else you want to propose.
See if I can find what you posted.
Yeah, I have to fire up a browser.
Would this be in
It would be in co-sense making.
Let me go to that and see what's there.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that too.
A liar's worst enemy is someone with a good memory. Oh, that's just an
But that's recent.
answer problem
Yeah.
with Steve Bartlett. Dalai Lama.
Oh, actually, it was the good memory part because now the thing that hit me was it's not people with good memory that liars care about now. It's systems with good memory. That's always kind of been the case, but they were hard to query. Well, now we have a much better way to query these systems with good memory. Now, will it make a difference to the liars? Probably not. But to the
No.
people who actually are paying attention to whether something is true or not, it's a very powerful tool. So I think there's one way of going about at least presenting the evidence, building a wall against falsehood and against lies and against deception.
I mean, fact checking has become a thing in the media. I mean, there's a whole section of Google News that's fact checking.
Yeah.
I don't know that fact checking, whether it's real time or after the fact, is really having much of a.
No, it doesn't on people who don't care about the truth. But there's a number of people watching who are not part of the MAGA idiot crowd. And for those people who are quote unquote undecided, and arguably Josh could be in that category, okay, at one time, for those people, maybe presenting the truth might actually have an effect. So that's what I'm really addressing, is not the pro, not the con. Those people are already pretty well set in their ways. It's the undecided middle to whom more truth potentially could make an impact. That's what I'm trying to focus on.
It turned out that most of the people who had polled undecided did end up voting for Trump at the
Well,
last.
that's what they say. I think that's an easy thing to say, but I want to see the evidence. I want to see the traceability. I want to see the audit trail.
There was a segment on one of the NPR programs that actually interviewed a bunch of people who had been polled as undecided, and then they were re-polled after the election, and they said that most of them said they did vote for Trump and that they made up their mind at the last minute.
Wait, what was that last clause you said?
They made up their mind at the last minute.
Is it what, based on this stupid misconception about the economy?
Well, they did ask him what was the factor that changed your mind, and I think for most of them was the price of eggs and butter. That was the dominant one.
Fuck stupidity. God, I can't believe that. As if the president controls any of that. You know, yes, loosely, but with high latency, and obviously, you know, Trump taking credit for it is just baseless.
There's going to be a trade war, tariff trade war, and the price of everything is just going to go up because it is.
I mean, arguably 2 weeks ago, he didn't understand what tariffs were. I don't even know if he understands what they are now.
Doesn't matter. What he understands is what he believes, what he claims to believe.
Well, then there's the other side of things, which is I see a lot of these videos now being presented to me. I don't know how true this is or how representative this is, about MAGA voters all of a sudden waking up to the falsehood that they've been told. I think
I don't
that's
know about all of a
more
sudden. I
quick
think it takes a
fodder, too.
very long time for people to come out of denial.
Well, if you
If
watch
ever.
Kimmel, which sometimes I do,
Yeah.
this phrase that's been typed into Google suddenly shot up right around the time of the election. And the phrase is, "Am I stupid?" Okay? It used to be nobody ever asked that of Google up until the day before the election. And then after the election, supposedly, according to Kimmel, the frequency of that query into Google shot through the roof.
But
And
how does Google know if he's stupid?
Well, his remark on that is, if you're asking, you are. Okay. So anyway, I think that the emergence of agents on top of DKRs, on top of the raw record, is good for at least 2/3 of us. And I think shame on the middle for being undecided this late in the game, but perhaps because they're in the middle, they might still be swayed. Unfortunately, too little, too late.
Yeah.
And I think this country is. I mean, I said it yesterday. It's lost. This country is lost. I seriously have been spending a lot of time looking at where else to go.
Well, if I were in my 30s, I might seriously consider relocating, but of course I'm turning 80 and it's no point.
So Costa Rica comes up, Portugal always seems to come up, Panama comes up, Georgia comes up.
Not the state, the country.
Yeah, the country. Not the state, definitely. Although I do have relatives there, unfortunately. And I have relatives in Texas too. Let's see, what was the other one?
British Virgin.
Portugal, Georgia, Panama.
Martinique.
Did I say Costa Rica? I think I did say Costa Rica.
Yeah. You didn't mention New Zealand.
No, because it's one of the more expensive places. So according to this particular thing that I saw, these were ready, easy, and relatively inexpensive. New Zealand, clearly, if you can afford it, would be one of the best places to go.
Yeah.
But even 20 years ago, they wouldn't let you in unless your personal net worth was worth $1 million US. And that was 20 years ago that I looked into it.
I don't.
Or your income requirement had to be something very large.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna play out my days until lights out, and hopefully it won't,
Yeah.
won't be miserable.
One of my ex-army buddies used to say, "Yep, he's going to live life until the money runs out, and then boom."
Yeah,
But he's still alive. He's in his 70s also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've had 6 people uh, go lights out this year on me. So
I saw your posting of Nancy, by the way. I read the whole thing too. It was a good posting.
yeah. The last part about donating to Alzheimer's and dementia research, that is a hint as to what did her in.
Sure.
Um, but I don't think it's fatal. I think you have to elect to sign out.
Actually, that reputedly was also the cause for Doug Engelbart's passing. And I think he did succumb to that.
Did he die naturally or did he elect to sign out early
No, he died, I think, in his sleep.
in his sleep? Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that Nancy was surrounded by her family, according to that obituary, tells me that it's more likely that she chose
It was
to do
scheduled.
the, yeah. Her younger brother Alan, who had AIDS back, I think it might have been the 90s, also elected to sign out because he was suffering from AIDS and it was incurable at his stage. So it's quite possible that she said, what's the point? But I mean, that's only speculation. I don't really know that for sure.
Mhm.
And I can certainly appreciate, the loss of intellectual faculties because I'm experiencing noticeable loss of faculty energy, both physical energy and intellectual energy. They're all, diminishing. I can tell they're diminishing.
Your ability to recall your past work is not, as far as I can tell. You're still pretty sharp there. If you may, I mean, if I may, I think your patience to listen is not quite as high.
It never was. Now it's, my eyes glaze over so rapidly anymore. It's hard to find something that will retain my attention for more than 5 minutes. My father couldn't listen for more than 3 sentences.
That's definitely an impediment to collaboration.
Oh
That might
yeah,
be another one. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
ran in the family. The listening disability ran in the family. Both my parents had different kinds of listening. My mother was also hard of hearing, which made it worse. But my dad wasn't hard of hearing, but he had the same listening disability that I have.
Is that a listening disability or a mental state? That doesn't sound like a listening disability.
Well, I mean, if you say one sentence and ask, and I know in advance I'm going to paraphrase it back, I can do it. If it's a paragraph, forget it. I can't paraphrase back a paragraph.
I would disagree with you. If you listen carefully, I suspect you could draw the connections between those statements and then form a response.
Maybe. And if I can see the text as opposed to listen to it audibly,
Yeah.
I oftentimes turn on the text to speech, partly because on Zoom, I miss the phonemes don't make a word. And sometimes the otter can find a word that matches the phonemes and I can't. And if I miss a word, I've sort of missed the whole sentence because I can't diagram the sentence in real time because I got a missing word. So I might know something about the topic, but not the sentiment. I mean, if you're doing a rant, I can say, well, that's a rant. And I can even say, well, it's a rant about politics or whatever. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you the substance of the rant. I mean, I go to Toastmasters and people give these speeches, and there are people who evaluate the speeches. They give an evaluation. And the people who give the evaluations are mentioning things in speech that I didn't even realize was there. So I'm a terrible listener. I know that. I've always been a terrible listener. And both of my parents are terrible listeners.
Well, see, what's interesting to me is not that you're a terrible listener. It's that you seem to be okay with that.
I don't have a choice. I don't.
Yeah, you do. Sorry, do you hear
I
something
mean,
in the background?
I heard some noise, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, sorry. It's Gil admonishing the dogs.
Oh, I mean, if I can go back and read the transcript that was taken, by machine, then I'll get something out of it. I oftentimes do look at transcripts because I didn't get it in real time. But that's a lot of work, and it takes twice as long. And I don't know, I just tune out.
Because the reason being, you mentioned Socratic method quite a bit. You can't actually engage in Socratic method unless you're following what's being said.
But the Socrates only asked like one question, like one sentence with one question, and then there's a long pause while you ponder it. So they're not. Socrates isn't lecturing. He's asking a carefully
Yeah,
crafted
he's
question.
leading. But Plato, on the other hand, did use longer utterances, even though he was a student.
Oh, yeah, Plato basically wrote down the whole dialogue.
Yeah.
But most of the dialogue is the respondent.
No, it sets up the following question as well.
Well, I mean, if you look at the fraction of words uttered by Socrates and the fraction of words uttered by the respondent, I think you'll find it's pretty lopsided. If you go back to that video with me and Colin, he talked for 7 hours and I almost never said a word.
I've been in some of those. Not just with Colin either.
Well, I mean, that one was just so far over the top that it was just ludicrous.
You know
But
what would be fun? Is to take that video into one of these LLMs and see what they make of it.
be my guest, I could care less.
You couldn't care less.
I tried asking the same like 3-word sentence, three-word question over and over, and he never responded. He just prattled on about other stuff. And politicians do the same thing. Journalists will ask a pointed question, and then the politician will talk for 5 minutes and not answer it. Just kill the time, run out the
Well, let
clock.
me ask you this then, something very concrete. Given the results of the election and the, cartoon characters that he's nominating for his cabinet, are you doing anything with your retirement plans and or your retirement nest egg any differently?
No, because I expect it's all going to be spent on medical care and cost of living, just basic. I'm going to end up eating up my cost of living for, you know, my nest egg for cost of living and medical care. What else is
So
he going to do?
Elon's remarks about the dollar going to zero doesn't bother you?
I don't know that I don't know. If he said that, I didn't hear him say it. I don't know what he's.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just trying to get a rise out of people or whether he really believes it. On the other hand, he's got a stake in a coin, a Dogecoin, so maybe that's what he's trying to create.
I don't have no. I can't get. I have a hard enough time getting into the head of simpletons, let alone complicated people like Elon Musk. I can't get under their heads.
All right. What else is worth discussing then?
We did we mention the Larry Lessig talk yesterday or not? I
You
can't
did
remember.
mention that yesterday, yes. You and Josh, I think. I don't think I participated very much in that part of the conversation.
I tend to like his talks. Not everybody likes his talks. I liked it. Anne
Yep.
Marie, Anne Marie was a little bit skeptical is the wrong word, but unimpressed by it, I guess I should say. I was more impressed by it than she was. But I thought there were some insights that sort of made sense to me.
I actually saw him in person, I think in 2005, but not since then. I obviously know who he is.
Yeah,
Uh,
I saw him in person when we had the memorial for Aaron Schwartz because he was involved with the Aaron Schwartz thing. Schwartz was working with him at Harvard, and but that was in the what
that was
around two
also over a
thousand.
decade ago, right?
Oh, I think it was. Yeah, I don't remember. It was in the 2000s. I don't remember when it was.
Yeah.
All I know is that Lessig looks a bit older in this video, this TED video, than I remember him appearing when.
I remember having, I remember seeing him when he looked very young, clean shaven, decades ago.
I think he's a very good speaker. I thought his several TED Talks were just fabulous.
Have you seen his Lester talk?
That's the one I think that's maybe his best one.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he was a very poor presidential candidate, and the way he went about it, I think, took away from the respect that I had for him. I had very high respect for him until he did that.
well, I mean, anybody who runs for president is gotta be in a completely different frame of mind than anything that I can reckon.
Yeah, but how can you hope to have any influence if you say, okay, I'm going to resign after day one or whatever that day was? So how can anybody take you seriously if that's your going in position?
Well, I don't expect to be taken seriously, to tell you the truth. I mean, maybe at one time I had that as a high hope, but I think that's my expectations of that have diminished, especially since retirement, but even before retirement.
Hmm. I apologize then, because I think I am trying to take you seriously, Barry.
Well, I got nothing serious left to say that I haven't already said, and much
Well,
better.
I'm paying attention to some of that, but probably not as close as you want me to.
Well, but what would you be doing with it anyway? I don't know that there aren't very many people who could pick up where I left off and do something with it.
Uh, they may do something that wasn't what you intended, but still could be useful.
Well, I would hope so because if I could have anticipated it, I might have presaged it with some thoughts, but you know,
I think, a lot of it feeds into collaborology ideas. So that's what I'm connecting the dots with.
well, I mean, I got collaborated with Nancy for about 15 years and collaborated with a few other people who are gone now on lesser activities, not something as quite as profound. But right now I'm not collaborating with anybody because I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, have breakfast. You know, I go to the fix it shop on Tuesdays. I'll do Toastmasters on Thursday and this stuff on the weekend. And I don't have any projects that I'm laboring on. I'm just
Oh, let
living.
me ask you something. I like working on these old iMacs because I love the displays on them, and I don't really care about processor speed these days because they're plenty fast enough for what I need them to do. But recently, two out of my four iMacs, the screens went bad. They have the green and pink, vertical striping. And I was wondering if you knew what the cause was of that and whether it was a simple fix or whether it's even fixable.
Um, Chances are it's the graphics card.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can hook up. I don't. Um, well, there's one thing you might be able to do. You know that the Macs have a screen sharing. That is, you can remote view between one Mac to another. The
Okay.
question is, where in the chain does that data come from? If it's before the graphics data is produced on the screen, then you could screen share to another machine. If it's
Right.
after it's already been processed, then that won't help. But you
Right.
might at least try to see whether screen sharing allows you to see the what the first computer is producing. And
Mhm.
also you can, there's the SSH input or the file
That's right.
sharing, which is still there. You
That's
can
right.
SSH in or file share. So I would try screen sharing and see whether or not it replicates across screen sharing. And if
That's a good
not,
thought.
then you can take an old machine and use it as the display for screen sharing for the better machine.
Right. Right. Yeah,
But
that's a good thought. I
I'm not
think
going
I'll
to
have
make a
to think
prediction.
into it.
I'm not going to make a prediction whether or not that's going to be a winner or lossage.
I have to think into it and see if it actually booted.
Yeah.
I could tell that it did boot, and I was seeing these stripes on actual rendered content before the thing failed completely.
Well, when you first turn it on, you get the little Apple logo. Is the Apple logo also messed up?
These days, I think yes. So it may not boot. Yeah.
Yeah. If the Apple logo is messed up, then then it's running from.
Right.
It's not even running from the operating system yet.
Right. Right. Right.
So the operating system isn't going to help. Isn't going to fix
Yeah,
that.
so I have two of them, so I'll have to check both of them. But anyway, it's strange that I love these devices. I love the screens, but then within like a month, two of them failed.
And if it's the screen itself, you can hook up second monitors to the back of the machine. Hook up a second monitor and see, because that'll tell you if it's the physical monitor or the graphics adapter that's driving the monitor.
Another good thought. Okay, you've given me two things to figure out.
Yeah.
All right. Because otherwise, for fun, I would just send you one and see if you could actually just tinker with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would, after you've done your thing,
Mhm.
I mean, if the graphics adapter, which is probably soldered to the motherboard, has gone bad, and you need that for everything, I mean, I've got one down here on the floor that my neighbor gave me. I think it's a 2008 iMac. I think it came with Maverick or something. It's running Monterey. I put Monterey on it, and not that I'm using it, because I got this other one that's bigger and better, newer.
Yep.
But I've got quite a few old Macs that are perfectly functional, except that
Yeah.
I tend to sit at to the biggest and best one.
Do you only use iMacs, or do you also have MacBooks and MacBook Pros?
I don't have any Mac notebooks. I've got a lot of Windows or Intel laptops, but I don't have any Mac laptops.
I would berate you for still running Windows.
Actually, that's not true. I do have, I think I do have one MacBook that is really old. I think it's a G era machine, maybe. But I haven't.
Huh.
I take it back. I do have one MacBook that George Lucas gave me that had belonged to his son.
The billionaire?
Not that George Lucas, another. A guy from the BBN group who died recently. In fact, this Mac, he gave almost all the Macs I have were given to me by George. This iMac that I'm on, this big one, he gave me this one. My neighbor gave me the one down here. He gave me 2 or 3 Mac Minis. How many Mac Minis did he give me? 1, 2, 3 Mac Minis, a Mac Pro, and this iMac, and then some other peripheral stuff, peripheral hard drives and things like that.
You know, the G4 Mini that just got announced is the first one I'm actually going to think about seriously buying. It's like an
M4 Mini.
Sorry, yeah, the M4. Because all the other ones, up until recently, have been way overpriced. Apple pricing policy just driven it through the roof. But this current one looks like it's relatively price competitive based on its performance.
Now, I spent a whole lot of time trying to get a gigabyte motherboard back in service. I finally fixed it. The problem was it had a very high-end but old graphics adapter that I think the graphics adapter itself is okay, but I think the Microsoft Windows drivers for it were wonky because the Linux drivers worked on it and the Windows drivers didn't. And I finally just ripped it out and put in a different video adapter.
Well, that's where I was going to go and just say, forget the Windows, just put Linux on it.
Yeah. Well, the only reason that I had Windows at all is because occasionally I would play a game or some activity that only was available on Windows that didn't have a Linux or a Mac version of it.
Yeah, and for that, I would, if it were me, if it were I, if it were I would explore virtualization in order to play that game within a Linux container.
But you need a lot of memory for virtualization. If you only got 8 gigs to begin with,
Mhm.
that kind of doesn't leave much room for running a virtual machine inside
Yeah,
of it.
depends on the game, depends on the app that you're running inside it.
I mean, I've got one Dell machine that a friend gave me that I was working fine, and then finally it started booting up with 3 flashes, which meant some onboard chip died, and it's like $80 to replace the motherboard, and just isn't worth it.
I had mentioned this weeks ago, but I'm about to, if I can get myself put back together, I'm about to start re-engaging in my hobbyist interest, which is to put together, my own PCs. And the only reason for that is to be able to experiment with some of the latest GPUs. Not
Oh,
latest, affordable GPUs, like a 3090 to start with, not the 4090, nothing, more expensive than that. But to be able to put like maybe 2 or 4 into a custom chassis and just run, let's say, a small LLM locally, instead of paying those dollars to have it hosted somewhere.
I don't have anything that's capable of doing that. I think I have 1 or 2 machines that maybe have 2 PCI slots that you could put in video cards, but I don't know. I just don't have the motivation or the interest to try to futz with that stuff anymore. There's just no anticipated payoff for it.
Yeah. Well, I just recall that 40 years ago, that's where I got my start, putting together those machines myself and soldering those jumpers and editing the BIOS jump tables and writing driver code and putting together combinations of hardware that had never been put together before. That was fun.
I just don't find enough. I mean, when the internet was new, there was a lot of good stuff on the internet that was novel and interesting. At this point, because the internet's been around for 50 years now, and the content of the internet is just like ho hum.
50?
Well, well,
No, 30 years. A little
when,
over 30.
when did we get it around?
Mozilla was released in 91. So that was 33 years ago.
Well, okay, whatever. 30, yeah, maybe 30 years.
And when I downloaded Mozilla in 91, it came with all the known bookmarks of all the websites it knew about on the internet. And there was like 24, somewhere around 24 or 27. That was it. That was the size of the web back then. Not the internet, the web.
Yeah.
Some people think that's the same thing.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't know that there are other protocols besides HTTP, but yeah, there are.
Many, yes.
Although a lot of those protocols aren't supported by, like Macs. I think Macs still support SSH. They dropped Telnet. They dropped FTP. They run SFTP and SSH, but only with the high-end encryption. So if you have the old-fashioned encryption, they don't. There's a gap between them.
They can excuse dropping any technology just by saying, "Oh, well, it's a security problem," right? That's a standard excuse they can use for almost anything. That's how they got rid of Flash. You could arguably say, same thing about FTP. You could say the same thing about even mail, SMTP. But obviously you can't drop SMTP.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run an SMTP server on my Solaris machine, and it still runs, except that nobody will talk to it anymore.
Well, if it's got a domain and it's got a DNS record, it will talk. Not a
Yeah,
problem.
but it won't negotiate a mutually acceptable protocol.
Oh, because everybody wants
The,
a special MIME type and wants
well,
full
the
43.
the encryption protocols, they don't do plain text anymore, and
Right.
has and antiquated encryption protocols. So
Yeah. They want TLS or whatever it's called.
what's TLS, and not just original TLS, but some late generation TLS.
Yeah.
So basically the mail server doesn't, it's just, it's there, but it doesn't do anything.
You could probably upgrade it.
Well, the thing is I'd have to basically either throw away the whole machine or find a version of Solaris that's new enough that still runs on that hardware.
Yeah, just, I
It's
mean,
old, it's Spark Ultra hardware. So
so you
much
don't
better.
have the source? Because if you had the source, you could just rebuild that part of it, the SMTP part of it.
Yeah.
Well, is
Yeah.
there a Linux built for the Spark? I'm not aware of any.
Well, I know that I ran BSD. I ran some versions of BSD on it. I'm not sure. I don't remember now if there's a version of Linux for this work. I know that NetBSD runs on it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Let me see if I can do a quick query. Uh,
I may have had some version of Linux running on it, and I just don't remember.
Did Linux run on Spark? Here it is. Several distros of Linux are supported on Spark hardware. Yes, there we go.
Including 32-bit hardware.
Let me go to that page. It's on Oracle, by the way. Not surprising. And Gen 2. Okay, that's not bad. Gen 2 is a good release. Fedora. Fedora has a Spark. There you go. Mainstream release has a Spark version.
Yeah, but probably not 32-bit. I do have 160. I do have two 64-bit Ultra machines.
Wait.
But I don't. I mean,
If it says Spark, why wouldn't it be 32 and 64, right?
I think all my Spark machines are 32-bit.
It just says Sparks. There's nothing here right now about the width of the word.
Oh,
Huh. But obviously it targets the old hardware, so. Oh, here we go. Baseline Spark CPU architecture to support in Spark B9 is 32-bit.
okay.
There you go. I'll send you this page.
I ever wanted to do anything, but I mean, I
There you
wasn't
go.
sure how much
There's
they
the
knew about
link.
the name.
You got a link now, so now you got no excuse. You can run Linux on that machine.
They want $31 a year now to renew my domain registration.
That's high. Why is it $32?
You didn't used to be, but it is now.
For a .com or what is it?
It's the .info.
Oh, .info. Yeah. Those used to be cheap. They're not
They
cheap
were.
anymore.
There was like, $5 or something. Now it's
Or
31.
$2.99, yeah, to begin with. I remember.
But
Yeah. Now just move it to a cheap domain and you can still use it.
yeah, the problem is moving to a cheap domain. That means all the stuff that's published out there will have non-working.
No, all you got to do is forward the old domain to this thing.
You can only
Oh,
do that.
right. Sorry, you don't pay for the old domain. That's the problem. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that would be a problem.
And I originally had .org, and I let .org expire, and then somebody snatched it up and parked it, and so on. Then I went to .info.
Yeah, they're waiting to snatch hundreds of dollars from you to get
Yeah,
it back.
but I'm never gonna. But at this point, there's no reason to go back to .org, even if they released it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you and I aren't settling on any interesting thing to focus on other than old hardware. We could all reminisce about VME and Unibus.
Yeah. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. T-shirts
So
got
we
holes.
thought, well, the 16 megabit per second was fast. Something like that for Unibus, and then VME was a little bit higher than that.
It's just I find it hard. I mean, there are a lot of things that I would hobby with in the old days that would, kill time and attention. Less and less of that stuff really
Yep.
intrigues me anymore.
I got to tell you, I used to work with a custom Spark machine. You know the old VME boards? They're huge boards, right? They're over a foot by a foot, probably 14 inches by 14 inches, something that size, okay? And I had one of those boards with 32 megabytes of memory. And I created, and this is per son, okay? I ordered the first machine that had 4 of those boards, 128 megabytes of memory on a Sun 4. Okay, a Spark architecture, Sun 4 running Solaris, had one of those big Kennedy 9-inch tape drives, and Hitachi 4 gigabyte drive, which was huge and heavy. I had 4 of those. 4 of those. That machine cost over $100,000.
Yeah.
And the project that I was working on, we bought 4 of those machines.
Yeah.
I was a big customer of Sun's way back in those days.
Yeah. I still have a bunch of old Sun machines, Spark machines, and whatnot. But of course, I'm only running one of them now. I'm running the Ultra machine because it has Micromuse on it and my one of my original websites. But I don't think it gets much traffic anymore. Maybe none.
By the way, Barry, guess what I was running on that machine? Can you? The big Sun 4 with 120 megabytes of memory and 16 gigabytes of space.
I don't know.
Those mapping and image processing and geometric computations.
Oh, math stuff. Yeah.
We're intersecting ellipses with raster data, mapping data, along with vector cartographic data. And arguably, if it were unclassified, it would be cited all over the place because it was the first time that was ever done, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next week I'll do a better job preparing for next weekend. Oh,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is coming up, right?
Thanksgiving is, let's see, what's today, the 19th? 17th. Today's the 17th.
17th.
And I think Thanksgiving is the 28th this year. It's late.
Yeah, it's late. Yeah. There's a possibility I will not be available next Saturday. If I choose to go, I might attend the conference Friday and Saturday, maybe even Sunday. I think it's a 3-day conference, so it may not be possible for me to attend at all next weekend, but I'll know later in the week.
All right. Well, try to let us know more than 10 minutes in advance.
Well, I gave you at least half-hour notice, I think, this morning.
Yeah, but I wasn't on the computer for the half hour in advance because I was doing something else around the house.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, Barry, anything else, or shall we drop?
I think we can drop. I don't know. We're just wasting time here.
Yeah, just shooting the breeze. All right, Barry.
Have a good week.
We'll see you about next weekend.
All righty.
Bye for now.